Okay, so recently I've been meditating on this idea of unmet needs and how it links into discipline. So I realized that as I cut all the kind of external useless stuff out of my life and have started to live a more directed life, I've had these cravings to do things that don't align with the goals that I want to achieve. And I was thinking about where these cravings actually come from. And I realized that I had been getting lost in the symptoms of these cravings. So your phone is a symptom, watching shows is a symptom, scrolling on shorts is a symptom, but there's actually a root cause to these problems. And I started kind of really meditating on how to kind of shift my perspective away from just trying to organize my life based on these symptoms like, oh, I need to not watch this or I need to not do this, but actually address that problem, to address the root cause and to understand why it's coming up and how to deal with it. So I remember when I first realized this, it was kind of a very weird thing. And I don't know if you can relate to this, but essentially I was taking a shower and the shower, I was feeling really nice and I was enjoying the shower and I kind of wanted to stay a bit longer. And I kind of reflected on where this desire to like stay in the shower was coming from. And I realized that I was actually thirsty. And I know this might sound a bit weird, especially if you can't relate, but essentially I was thirsty, but my mind thought that being like in water was kind of scratching that itch in a sense. Like that desire wasn't being fulfilled. Like my craving or my desire to like drink water essentially wasn't being fulfilled, but something kind of akin to that was being fulfilled, like being in water. And it felt really nice. And this is when I realized that my mind doesn't actually know a lot of the time how to get the thing that it wants to get. And again, I don't know if you can relate to this, but this happens like as I like zoomed out, I realized this happens in all sorts of places in my life. Like sometimes maybe I'm watching a show because I feel kind of affection starved, or maybe I haven't seen my friends in person for a while. And I'm watching the show and I'm seeing these social interactions. And the show isn't the show distracting me or stopping me from doing the things I want to do. Like the show itself isn't the problem. And it's kind of this underlying feeling of loneliness or desire for affection from other people. And I realized a lot of these things have just been controlling my life, like these subtle unmet needs that cause me to engage in certain behaviors. And so you might be able to relate to this. And if you kind of like take a step back and see, why am I doing this activity? Like if you open up your awareness and look at the activity itself, it's like, what does the activity give me that I didn't have before? Like what is the unmet desire or craving that my being is going through that causes me to continuously engage in this activity? So I can give a few other examples that might be able to help. Like watching a movie where the character is kind of everything is going right for the character and you're feeling this sense of satisfaction that could come from a feeling of powerlessness. A lot of the time we engage in these stories, in these shows, in these ideas, in these concepts, because we might feel powerless or we might feel like this certain longing to be someone that that we currently aren't embodying. And so just noticing these things, I realized is like essential to kind of keeping on track, but to also understanding yourself better. Like the reason I started thinking about this was because I was cutting out all the different parts of my, like all the different like things that weren't like conducive to my goal, like be it like eating junk food, like YouTube, watching anime, watching movies that aren't like related to the thing that I want to kind of cultivate in this life. And so as I was cutting these things out, I realized like the things themselves are not necessarily the problem. And I came at it from kind of like a discipline perspective, where discipline is the ability to hold one thought in your mind for a prolonged period of time. And I was kind of focusing on why these different thoughts and cravings were bubbling up. And I realized it's because I wasn't showing awareness, attention, and even affection to those cravings themselves. Imagine your feelings as kind of attention-starved like children. And I know it's kind of a weird analogy, but imagine, yeah, like just kind of detach from your feelings. And maybe you have a feeling of anxiety, maybe a feeling of loneliness. When you're like with like an attention-starved child, like, I don't know, I haven't really been with one, but I assume when you're just in their presence, you kind of like, that is enough. Just showing them affection, like kind of showing them the idea that they exist through your eyes, like you're present with them, is kind of enough. And this is kind of the metaphor I use in my like mind when it comes to my emotions. Like, my emotions just want to be heard. They just want to be understood. My feelings just want to be appreciated, to know that they exist. And this like metaphor really kind of helped me kind of detach from my emotions and kind of see them for what they are, and kind of understand why awareness helps them. And literally just paying attention to your emotions, to your unmet needs, kind of heals them. It almost feels like they feel heard, and then they just kind of dissolve into love. And it's such an interesting frame that really like helped me, like I was saying. But if you just do that, you'll be kind of cutting the problem off at the root, not trying to just organize your day-to-day life and your like existence, like, oh, I'm gonna like cancel like my screen time, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna put this out of sight, I'm gonna like rearranging your environment to make sure you don't engage in the vice. That's kind of, you're treating the symptoms, but you're not treating the root cause. The root cause is you have an unmet need, a desire, a longing that your being has. And that's what causes those symptoms or those cravings to kind of manifest. And if you take away your phone, you'll do something else. And this is what happens when you don't cut a problem off at the root. It will just manifest in a different way. Like, for example, me, like a while ago, I was like really addicted to playing games and stuff. And that was the kind of the symptom. And it was like probably like a feeling of like loneliness, powerlessness, that I was gaining fulfillment from the game. I cut off games. I was like, okay, I'm never playing games again. Like, games are the enemy, games are the problem. And I cut them off. I cut them off completely. And then I started binge watching spiritual content. And that became the new problem. And it's so weird. Like, it seems maybe society deems that as a better problem to have, but it's just the same thing. My life hadn't fundamentally changed. I had just become slightly better adapted according to societal standards. But that unmet need of powerlessness, of longing, of desire wasn't actually addressed. I hadn't actually paid attention to that. And so again, this video is just kind of like an invitation to kind of zoom out a little bit in your life and really shed awareness and shed light onto why you're doing the things that you're doing. Why are you engaging in those activities? Why are you doom scrolling for 2 hours? What is the underlying feeling that causes you to do these things? Like, don't make your phone the enemy. Don't make games the enemy. Don't make shows the enemy. Don't make whatever it may be. Don't make the vice the enemy. I mean, don't make anything the enemy, but that's besides the point. Just watch the feelings. Pay attention to the feelings and address the root of where those feelings are coming from. But yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about in this video. Hopefully this insight helped you. Hopefully it allowed you to kind of zoom out and reconsider why you're doing the things that you're doing. But yeah, thank you for watching and take care.